Hi, today I'm joined by Jan and Jillian Yuhase. As you can see, they're identical twins, and they have a business called Entwined Lifestyle, where they work with relationship coaching, lifestyle coaching, and love and self love. I'll let them explain more about what they do. But join me in welcoming Jan and Jillian to the show. Hi, Jan.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for having us, Jan.
I'm so thrilled to have you. So, I have so many questions that I really want to know the answers to. Your website is beautiful. I encourage everybody to go to Entwined Lifestyle, no S at the end.com, because it has a lot of answers to the questions that I would ask. You know, what do you want to do next? Who inspired you? Your background, that sort of thing. You have quite a background. You have masters in family and relationship, MFTs. You're certified life coaches. You're experts in body language and micro expression. So you bring a lot of expertise and experience to your work. But I'm curious about the things that, are the little questions. Why do you do what you do, and what compels you, and what keeps you doing it? Those sorts of things. So what's the passion behind your work?
I think for us, it's all about relationships bring meaning to life. It's the things that we cherish the most outside of our everyday life, because when we come home from work, it's always nice to be able to have those connections and conversations with people that we care about the most. And those are the things that we hold on to our dearest to our heart, is our memories and the people that we cherish. So I think us growing up and as children, like she and I had a relationship that was very challenging to explain to other people, but it was something that always we had each other to rely on, and having that close connection has always been important for us in terms of being able to attract healthy relationships and show other people how they can have the same in return, whether it is a business relationship or a romantic partner. And so we have a very interesting relationship, because even though we're identical twin sisters, we're also business partners. So we've had to figure out how to communicate with each other, but also respect each other's differences, because we do think differently about how we get to the end result or goal that we would like to achieve. And so she and I have figured out a lot of times, like, you can have multiple relationships within one dynamic, whatever, in one relationship. And so being able to help people see different perspectives, and show them how they can just communicate in a certain way to get what they need and fulfill out the relationship.
And that was Jillian. Jan, will you add your perspective to that? Is it the same, or is it a little bit different?
I would agree with her in a lot of what she has said in terms of relationships bring value and meaning to our life. It's not things. It's definitely the people that we cherish in our lives that help us have that happiness or fulfillment that we are looking for in terms of our life. And in terms of us helping clients with their life balance, we definitely believe you need to focus on having a holistic lifestyle in terms of work, social, and love. So it's definitely not just one aspect of your life in terms of relationships that provide everything that you need in life. Obviously, there needs to be more purpose for your own self benefits and gratification that you enjoy in life.
Talking about those pieces, there's that balance between those, and with balance, there's separation, which causes me to wonder, how do you both come together? Is easier for me to see because you're twins, and I could see where you would think alike and all of that. But how did you learn how to separate? You said you have different ways of approaching things, and you've learned to bring different things to the table with your business. How did you learn that?
I'm not really for sure how we learn to separate and divide. We have the businesses, there's certain aspects I'm responsible for and certain aspects she's responsible for in terms of dividing. But in terms of our thinking, I'm not for sure how our thinking is different, where I'm more of a whole picture type person, and she's more of a detail type person. I don't know if it happens to be our twin connection and always being together, that we've learned to find the balance in terms, or I'm not really for sure in terms of, that's a really good question, actually. I'm not for sure how we came about to have different thinking patterns. We do see each other's perspective, and we do are capable of understanding like the whole picture or the details, but it's just naturally one of us is driven towards one specific thought process over the other, I would say.
Jillian, did you want to add anything to that? I don't want to leave either of you out.
We do a lot of actually analyzing of each other, and like, so an outsider hearing our conversations might find it a bit odd, but we are constantly thinking about why certain things happen or this or that, and yeah.
I understand. Yeah. Well, and as you're talking, I'm thinking how, yes, you're twins, and that twinship is very much a factor. It also applies, though, very, very closely, very exactly to your work with relationships, because you can apply everything that you're saying to relationship work that you do.
Correct.
That's fascinating to me. Now, I also, in my research for your conversation today, I also discovered that being the natural beauties that you are, you were involved with a business in floral design, correct?
Yes, for about 10 years, we had a wedding floral design. Our grandmother was a master gardener, so as a child and hobby of ours, we grew up competing in floral design and whatnot, and our mother's an artist as well. So we've always had been in a creative environment growing up, so it was kind of just like an innate thing that we pursued after college, and we truly enjoyed it. And so we went from one love field of doing flowers for people's weddings, and now we're in this other love field. So I guess you could say love has always been our purpose and focus in life, in terms of helping people achieve their vision and dream and what they want for themselves.
And that company truly became successful because we built wonderful relationships with our clients when we were constantly working with mother of the bride, mother of the groom, and trying to keep the bride, everyone happy and cohesively going towards the same result in order to create this vision. And so that's when we started missing what we had went to school for, our psychology and being able to work with people on that element and that level. And so that's when we're like, maybe we should go back to what we went to school for. But then we learned more about into the coaching field versus doing therapy, and it just made more sense and a better fit for us, because she and I like to have that freedom and spirit of just to be alive and not be so restricted to four walls. And so coaching allowed us to actually be able to help people, but also in a way that was comfortable and made sense for us too. And so
there's more fluid relationship between, our clients and us in terms of helping them and seeing the benefits. You can be a real person as opposed to, that doctor-client type relationship.
Yeah.
So we see a greater benefit in our clients in terms of being more like a vulnerable, real person to them at times and during the process of coaching.
And being able to really relate. I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
And I also see threads in the businesses that you have and had, because there's expression, love, and relationship in all of those, and creativity.
Mm-hmm. Yes, most definitely.
Yeah. Life is a creative process. So the fact that you did it through flowers didn't take away that you were helping people with their lives. They were just expressing it through floral creations, right?
Right. Yeah, we actually used to do with all of our clients a little mini lifestyle questionnaire with them to understand who they were as individuals, to help us in terms of what style of wedding they wanted to have. So we've always been incorporating psychology into whatever we were doing one way. And people are always like, how did you know what I want? But it's we've always tried to understand our clients on another level to help achieve their, vision and whatnot.
And that's what I really love talking about with you, because I love to see how that thread carries through. Life is so funny because we think we can avoid certain things, but we can't. You see this with your clients, don't you? It's we just can't. And when it's something that we enjoy and it's positive, it's fun to watch the thread unfold, like with this. So,
Yes.
with the floral arrangements, I'm just curious because I enjoy flowers also. Do you find yourself always including that in your homes?
That's a funny question. Everyone thinks like, oh, you would bring flowers home to your home all the time. Actually, we don't because you see them all the time. It's not that you take them for like granted, but it's just like, I don't always bring them home. Sometimes I'd bring home leftovers and whatnot, but it's not something I would like instinctually think, oh, I'm at the wholesaler. Oh, I want this for my home this week. No, you just don't. I think, I don't know. It became like, it's like work, I guess, even though I do appreciate nature, and whatnot, and florals.
One of the things on your website that, again, carries through on the thread, but goes into the future that I was really interested in is I saw one of your future desires is to open, I'm not sure how you worded it, but I saw it as a homeopathic and herbal apothecary boutique. Is that accurate?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I thought, how lovely. This is healing, health, themes in your life, helping others, bringing in nature, creativity. So where are you with that? Is it a thought? Is it
It's definitely a passion. We both practice herbal remedies for everything. I would say, I don't know if it's from growing up in the country. We grew up in a small farm town. So like, I don't know if it was just the way that we grew up, everything. There was always like, find stuff in your kitchen more or less to like heal stuff as opposed to always going to the doctor. I was always like more that like, I feel like I was born like many like century or decades later than I should have been. So I've always more that old fashioned, old school type mentality. And it's also like a creative thing, I think, as well. But she and I always used to get sick. We had really bad immune systems. So I'd always be like, mostly like sinus infections every winter. I would literally be in bed for days straight, miserable with migraines and sore throats and whatnot. So I started doing more research on herbs and stuff like that, and I found my body responded much better to herbal remedies as opposed to antibiotics and medications. So then I would say we got into that probably like almost 10 years ago, I would say, is when she and I started doing like research on herbs and stuff like that. And I've just been doing it since. And I would say I rarely, ever go to the doctor. I haven't had the flu probably in I don't know how many years or even a cold or anything because we do practice herbal remedies. So I would love to have a own little like shop one day or create all these concoctions and see it go somewhere. But right now it's not on the table with everything else going on. But yeah, I would say all of our friends, like all my friends will call me in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. like, oh, do I need to go to the hospital? Like what's wrong? Or what, like, so yeah, a lot of our friends will be like, we're like, they're like doctors as to what to do.
Isn't that how you started doing the work that you're doing now? Talking to your friends about their needs?
Yeah.
So in a way, maybe you're already on your way.
Well, yeah, we do give advice to everyone. Yeah. I'm always helping people like take this or take that. This will cure that. And it's, I don't know.
I feel like it's more of a hobby, right? Than being an actual entrepreneurial type gig. So
if you hit record on the phone when they called, it could be the beginning of the book. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. I think it's a brilliant idea, and knowing how beautifully you package things and the work that you put out, the writing that you do, and your images on social are just gorgeous. So I know however you did it, it would be just lovely. So I'm eager to see how it unfolds.
Thank you.
What's the biggest difference because we're talking about these threads that carry through, what do you think when we're talking about similarities, but what do you think the biggest difference between them are? You've had enough time between the work that you've done in terms of years. How do you feel it's different in how you're helping people?
I think it's more of like an intimate type dynamic, being able to actually see change over time gradually, and that in itself is like very rewarding, and you can actually know that someone else's life is being able to change just by you helping guide them in terms of asking them certain questions, giving them certain tools and techniques to apply in everyday life, but just being able to see someone's life change over time, like it's something that's so valuable that there's like no price on it. So it's just like, it makes me like, feel very grateful that I get to experience those types of things and watch my clients transform their lives and see them find a bigger purpose and be able to navigate more with ease in their everyday relationships with others, whether it is, an intimate relationship or, a business relationship. But just being able to see that transformation is, I can't really describe the emotion, but it's just like a feeling that you're like very grateful to have the opportunity to work with those types of people and see them change.
I understand. I actually consider it a sacred gift because it's really an honor. And
correct. Yes, I feel that way.
Yeah, and I feel that when one life changes, that ripple effect goes on to change so many others. That in your work, you're changing the world one by one.
Definitely.
So I understand what you're saying. It's beautiful. Knowing that, how do you see your work evolving? Do you have plans to change it in any way, or are you content to have it unfold in the way that you've set it up now? It looks lovely the way you have it set up, but I'm curious if you have thoughts in mind.
Right now we're gonna, we'll keep with the same, coaching format that we do now, and most of our clients are referrals, which is great. That lets me know I'm serving my clients well, and also lets me know that those people, are seeing change in their own life too. So that's like a blessing. I know we're going to be able to launch some coaching programs here soon for people who may not be able to actually work with us one-on-one, but they'll still be able to work on things, whether it's setting boundaries or whether it's being able to develop more self-love with their life, but just helping them still in a way so we can expand and help more people, even if we're not working them one-on-one, but they can actually purchase a online program from us so they can actually work on their own skills during, their one-on-one time with themselves.
That's really, really lovely. One of the things I know you from your online work, and one of the things that I think is so beautiful that you put out is a lot of your messaging around self-love. Well, all of your messaging is just stellar. But if you could leave listeners with a few messages about, and I'm not saying we're leaving now, but what messages would you like everyone to have about self-love?
Well, self-love starts with basically believing in yourself and having positive thoughts about who you are and what you need in life. And so a lot of self-love is getting down to that core part of who am I, and what are my needs that I need to get out of my relationships, in order to receive the same in return and be able to give those. So because of course relationships are about giving and receiving, that mutual balance. So helping people understand, if I need something from somebody or I want something from somebody, I need to make sure I'm also giving that at the same expense and not just expecting it. So a lot of times teaching people to look within and understand what it is that they need and want and what they're proud of in their own life and what they value, and help them operate from that place really naturally increases their self-esteem and their confidence to be able to naturally attract more of that in their own life. So teaching people to have a solid self-love core and think very positive about themselves is very important in order for you to really be able to get what you need with life in terms of your relationships.
The balance word came up again a lot. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yes.
Has there ever been a time in your path that you had that you were challenged with your own balance?
I don't think so. I'm challenged with other things in life, but not so much like balance. I think I've always made time for whether it was like school or work or a relationship or family. That's one thing I think she and I've always been able to manage very well.
I definitely can feel when if I start to like get off balance, like I immediately know, okay, I have to make an adjustment. I have to change. I immediately have that sensation, that feeling that something's not going accordingly in terms of like, I'm not giving myself enough time to, whether it's go to the gym or I'm not giving myself time to like hang out with a friend or spend time with my partner. I definitely feel it and know immediately whenever I'm starting to tilt her off and how to get myself right back on. Like, because I constantly feel like I need to have a sensation of balance in my life because it provides that inner peace for myself.
So you recognize the point and then make the choice to change it and get it back in alignment. Yeah, I understand. So is that the point that you're teaching, that point of choice?
Yes, everyone has a choice in terms of what they would like to have within their life. And so if they choose not to love themselves and they might attract unhealthy relationships, that's a choice that they're making. Also, it's a choice if they decide not to pursue a certain, career or pursue certain types of other, or have a healthy relationship with a parent. They're making those choices. So it is up to you in terms of what you want, because you have the potential to change and allow your life to unfold in the way that you choose that you would like it to have. So I think a lot of times we do make, we have to decide if we want to make a healthy choice or not make a unhealthy choice. And a lot of it stems from, do we love ourselves enough to say, I deserve love, or I am enough to have what it is that I need and want in life.
One of the things, because you haven't had a challenge with that, I think there's, it's very inspiring for people to hear that. It's like, it's reassuring. And I also think that sometimes listeners like to hear a struggle so that they can be reassured that it's me too. Oh, okay. Can you offer anything that is reassuring of a struggle that you've navigated through for listeners to understand how they can also get through a challenge?
Yeah, I think going through a, intimate relationship or breakup is definitely challenging for many people to experience. I personally, before I met my husband, I actually dated someone for 6 years who I lived with him. And then one day he just up and left the house with really no reason at all. And so and this was after looking at engagement rings, talking about, having a family. And so at that point, you have to decide, okay, like, what is it that I deserve? Am I enough? And when I was able to, establish that with myself, I knew at that point that I couldn't go back to that type of person or allow myself. So, and the biggest thing is like having no communication with that person in order for that attachment to start to slowly disintegrate. Because if we keep communicating with that person, the wound stays open and we're constantly feeling like we're at this chase and we're never going to have that fulfillment that we need when it does come to love. So we have to really value our self-worth and our self-love in terms of knowing what it is that we need and knowing that sometimes we need to move on in our life when something isn't working out, because knowing the fact that we do deserve more for ourselves. And I think one thing our mother always told us, never depend on a man. And I think she and I have always just been go-getters and self-sufficient and independent, and know that like no matter what happens, you take care of yourself first and the rest will naturally sort of happen on its own too.
Mm-hmm. Those are excellent points. The example, and then also your mom's input. Everybody can relate to a breakup, no matter what type of relationship they're in. I mean, that's human experience. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, oh my goodness. And it hurts no matter what stage, no matter what relationship, it hurts. And there's a lot of choices to be made. So thank you for sharing that. You mentioned your mom. I'd love to hear more about your family, because on your website, you mentioned the farm that you grew up on with the town of 940. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
A dot on the map.
And yes, very small.
Excuse me. And I think it's in the Midwest. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yes, it's about 3 hours south of Chicago, roughly.
Okay. And I think we came from similar areas, actually. I grew up in Gary, Indiana.
Oh, okay. Yep, that's not too far.
And anyway, a topic for another time. We can talk about small towns and where we did different things. But you talk about your values, and I think the Midwestern values are something that I know I truly treasure, because everyone I know that comes from the Midwest was really raised with really sound foundational values. And you mentioned your maternal grandmother. I just wanted to sit in a room with her and talk to her. Can you tell me a little bit about her?
Oh, where do I start? So she was definitely, I don't know, there's so much to say about her. She was definitely a huge impact in our lives. She was always very all about, like, I would say, not self-development, but I would say she's always believed in kindness. She was on another level. Like, so when people ask you, oh, do you have an icon in life? Like, I would say not anyone famous would ever be my icon. It would be my grandmother, because she's just on another level of human being. Like, she taught us all how to, like, cook, and wrote us, like, all her recipes by hand for every single grandchild. She kept diaries on each one of our lives. So, like, I could actually write, an autobiography if I wanted to, because she kept details on every single one of the grandchildren's lives, our whole entire life, and the important events and whatnot. She was just an amazing, like, woman. I don't know.
She was just very graceful and very
ladylike,
very calm demeanor.
Mm-hmm.
But she would make you smile. She always had something funny or witty to say.
Yes.
Like, if you were having a conversation, she definitely would make you laugh, because she always had something up her sleeve, I felt like.
And she never gave up on, like, life. Even to the time before she passed away, she was 92. She was still, like, active and going and playing cards with her friends, and, like, she never, like, stopped living. So I guess that's a big thing. She always got up and kept living life.
And kept her connections going, yeah.
It sounds like she taught a lot about relationships, just in the way that she was an example.
Yes, family was very important, and she also had a big circle of friends. She was a grade school teacher as well. So, like, yeah, she was always involved in she was always involved with lots and lots of different things in life. She lived a very full life and had lots of, great relationships.
How special. How absolutely special. And what a tribute to her that you're carrying on those same values and traits.
Yes, definitely.
That's really lovely. What, in terms of naming your values that you are carrying on, what would you name as your top values?
Integrity, communication, commitment,
honesty, or trust.
Yeah. Do you ask your clients to work on relationships based on values?
Yes. So that's one of the first things we establish with them, is helping them identify their top 5 relationship values, because a lot of times people don't always understand why they may be attracting someone who's not a good fit for them. And so I just had this conversation with a client last night. We went back to her values because she was talking about, an ex boyfriend that was no longer part of her life, and she kept sort of it was hard for her to let him go. But I said, let's go back to your values, and he doesn't fit her values. So she's like, I should have let him go a lot sooner, because there was a lot of red flags. And knowing the fact that those values weren't being met, then she would, if she had known those sooner, it would have been easier for her to know that he probably had not been a good fit. But our values help us know when to let somebody go because when our needs aren't being met, then we need to know that, okay, it's time to, we need to really take care of ourselves here and listen to what it is that we need. Because if we can't reach a fulfillment out of our relationships, then we're always going to feel like we're not good enough, or we may not feel like we're getting our needs met, and which causes us to be unhappy in our day-to-day life, knowing that our love isn't being respected by our partners.
Mm-hmm. And you wrote a book that I found on Amazon last year, I think. Is that right?
Yes.
Last year, 2017, Dating Him.
Yes.
So if anyone is looking to read your work beyond the articles, the many articles that you have published widely on the web, they can also look for your book. Is it on your website? I'm sorry.
Yes, there's a female version and a male version, so they're both on the website.
Oh, I didn't see Dating Her. Okay, good. Okay.
Yes.
Well, I'm not surprised that you did that, but that's really clever. Dating Her.
Yes, but it's all about the basics of generally when you first start dating, and how like you sort of need to have this like charismatic presentation in order to naturally attract someone. It talks a little about emotional and social intelligence in terms of our communication skills, and how to like really position yourself, and how to sort of have this overall presence that's sort of where people can't deny you.
And then it goes on from there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, then the real work begins.
Yeah, then real life begins. It's like, when I was studying, the animals, babies in every species are adorable. I mean, that's why they're made to be babies. What animal creature isn't adorable? Even aardvark babies are adorable. But then things happen. So, we're all adorable when we fall into love. Yeah.
Yes.
There's something that has been in my mind, and I don't have the exact words around it, but twins, it occurs to me that twinship feels to me like an idyllic pod. That the twins have, and this is my version, in my head. I live in my own world, so I can make up everything that I have in my head. And in my mind, twins have this intuitive sense of each other. And so even if the world is rough, they can rely on each other. They can understand each other. They can face the world together, etc. So the thing that occurs to me, if that is even true, which I have no data to say it is or isn't, but if that is true, what happens if you have to then surface and deal with the rest of the world? Does it feel harsh?
Well, so growing up, it is very chewy. I can like look at her across the room and sort of know what she's thinking, or if she's having a bad day, sometimes I feel her like the emotional stress she might be feeling just because I'm listening to her. We're very much in tune, and we can have a sisterly disagreement and then 5 minutes later go back to having a normal work day, and you wouldn't even know it. Where sometimes you might have a disagreement with a girlfriend or a guy friend, and like you probably won't talk to them for a day or two, where she and I, like, that doesn't really exist. And so we can put our differences aside and still go back to what we need to do, the task at hand. But I think there's just like an underlying, we just like get each other. And I guess we're always like in tune or in touch with what the other one has going on. I'm trying to think what else. Do you have anything else to comment on?
Not really. I agree with everything that you're like saying. There's nothing that would like, even if we were like in like a bit of a sisterly tick, there's like nothing that would ever like come between us either. Mm-hmm. So,
but I think to go back to your question, like if the world was crashing down, it was just one of us standing on our own, I would still be able to independently take care of myself. So growing up, our mother always put us in different classrooms so we would learn independently and not necessarily rely on the other one in the classroom. So we always grew up in different classrooms all through grammar schools. So we would learn on our own and not rely on the other one.
And we are both very different, and we are both very opinionated in our own belief systems and our own thoughts and whatnot. So there's not like we like rely on each other for answers in any such sense. We both have our own sense of identity and outside of like the twinship.
That's interesting that your mom did that. And I wonder how much that formed your, and I mean, I'm just conjecturing, obviously, but it's interesting in terms of how it would apply to your business is what I'm thinking, because of how you each bring different strengths, different approaches. And the other thing that I'm thinking is with the two of you together sharing a vision as business partners, what powerful work you can do together.
Yes, you learn to compromise a lot because you are constantly sharing, which actually helps within, your intimate relationships. You're able to compromise a lot easier because you're always used to being able to compromise with, your sibling. And we have another brother and sister too, who we're very close with, who are a little bit younger, but our like sibling dynamic is very, very close knit, and we all support each other and probably talk to each other every day, if not every other day. But we're all very unique in our own way, but yet we still all have the same, perspective in terms of living life.
Mm-hmm. Do your brother and sister have any interest in going into the type of work that you do?
No, neither of them are they're both into like relationships, like and whatnot, but not into a work sense. Our brother works with horses, and then our sister's a grade school teacher. So
interesting. Horses are interesting, though, in terms of how they reflect relationships and emotions and healing and teaching is working with people, and so it's all somewhat.
It's somewhat related in terms of no one's in the field of not. I guess not in everyone's doing their own like loving sense of work, and it's one way, shape, or form.
Yeah. It's not like welding, which I think is also incredible, but it's more of a manual, artistic, type of work than emotion.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting. What would you like people to know that I haven't already asked?
I think everyone has the ability to achieve their goals. We're all humans. We're all born very similar. And I think it's a matter of a choice, which, path you decide you want to take. And so if you have a drive, if you have a purpose and you keep pursuing it, you will reach a point of success with it. And that success could be just being able to get a few clients. That'd be success being able to get 1,000 clients. But whatever your success is and your own determination, being able to touch people's lives, I think you get to define that yourself in terms of what it means. But everyone has the ability to achieve their goals if you just put your heart and your mind together and get up every day and work towards it. Consistency is key with anything in life, and being able to hold yourself accountable, you will achieve those things that you need for you.
And I would say being okay with failures is a huge thing in life. Like we all experience failures or setbacks, but it's how you overcome them and what your next step is. Like she and I we've both been through major long-term relationship breakups, but every time we went through that, we started a new business. So we would take our heartache and we would put that fuel into something positive, and it would give us drive to start a business and work and put something towards our own self-worth and what we wanted to create for ourselves. So it's a matter of this, everybody experiences failures, and it's okay. It's okay to have failures. It's okay to have setbacks. And as long as you have self-acceptance and know okay, how am I going to overcome this and go a different direction and different path in life? Because I was thrown off the path I thought I was on. everybody, you can get to where you need to go.
Those are wonderful points. If someone's at that juncture of putting themselves back on track by diverting their energy into a more positive action, is there a motto or some words that you could offer to help them if they're just at that point of feeling like don't know how to even start?
Well, definitely you want to take some time to process the emotions or the setback you experienced, and just, kind of like shoving it under the rug is not a healthy way. So definitely take some time to yourself, I think, until you are prepared to take that next step, because sometimes we can't just jump into a new action if we're not emotionally ready to do that. So definitely taking some time to like process everything that's going on and then refocusing your energy. But I would almost say you may have to actually put yourself into new scenarios and new situations, and also your mind will start to follow as well. So it's kind of like a little bit of a balance of like, am I happy enough and healthy enough that I can start these new projects, that I'm not going to like just give up on it because I'm too emotionally distressed or distraught. But also, once I start putting myself into these new activities and new energies and new focus and purpose and goals, I will start to naturally feel better as well from the failure or setback that I experienced. So it'll help fuel you to keep going.
Great. There's some self-examination there that you were bringing out, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the process of self-examination is something that not everybody's always willing to do, but if you're willing,
right, yeah. I think the more you get in tune with who you are as a person and your like the way you approach life, it'll make it easier for you to actually overcome what you need and do what you need to do.
Yeah. Okay. And that's what it would take, right? Getting back to,
Mm-hmm.
Does that tie back to self-love?
Yeah. And I think a lot of it is self-worth too, believing that you are capable of achieving what you would like to achieve. Because if you believe in yourself, others will believe in you too. Mm-hmm. So it all starts, everything's, you're the core of your own universe and what you want to create. So it's so important to invest in ourselves in terms of our health and our wellness and being able to really find that passion and love within ourselves, because then other people will sense it or feel it when they meet you in person. But I think in terms of going back to the motto, like I always tell people, live in the now equals we won the moment. Because if you flip now around, it equals one. And so it's just a little thing that like staying present, I think, is a huge thing, because if we go backwards, we can tend to have, sense of sadness a lot of times because we reminisce about things that didn't work out. And if we live too future oriented, we also can get anxiety because we overwhelm ourselves with thoughts and feelings and emotions. So I think trying just to focus on the now, but also have a plan in the steps that you're going to hold yourself accountable to. And whether it's, sometimes I'll tell people, put like a little reminder on your calendar or your phone, but don't put like what it is that you're going to do. Put the goal that you want to achieve, because then it keeps you focused on achieving that goal versus doing the work that it takes to get to the goal. Because everybody wants to say, I want a loving partner, versus focusing, okay, I need to do this exercise today, or I need to journal this today. But if we focus on the goal, it's a much easier, I think, way of being able to get to that goal versus saying we have to do these exercises or the work, because who wants to do work,
Right. Work doesn't have that glamorous feeling or sound.
No.
But it actually can feel just as good when it's done. Okay, super. Thank you for that. That's just really valuable for the listeners. So thank you very much. Mm-hmm. And before we close, tell people where they can find you. Where do you like to hang out online?
So they can find us on Instagram at Entwined Lifestyle. They can also find us on Pinterest at Entwined Life is our name on Pinterest.
Okay.
And they can find us on our website at entwinedlifestyle.com or Facebook.
Okay. And I'll have all of that in the show notes, as well as links to your books.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, we appreciate it.
Talk soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.